Radio Leeds. Happy blowy Saturday, 18 minutes to 8. Now, we've got some fine traditions and festivals in West Yorkshire, and I'm really delighted that one of West Yorkshire's most distinctive is back with a bang today. We're talking about Slaithwaite's much-loved Moonraking Festival, returning it in all its glory following a successful fundraising campaign. The Lantern Festival actually last happened in 2017. From memory, it used to take place every 2 years. Anyway, we've got the expert to tell us, because it is festival organiser Gill Bond. How are you, Gill? Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew.
Very nice to hear you. So, back properly, 2017. It's been a very long gap, hasn't it?
Well, it has. A lot has happened, mind, in those 5 years. And we filled them a little bit over the pandemic with our Moonshine Festival, where we invited people to create wonderful illuminated pictures in their windows, just to keep the spirit alive a little bit.
I remember that because we talked about it here on the show, and I thought that was a lovely idea. That was a sort of halfway house almost, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And really helped enable us to still have that impetus to fundraise again, to create the full Moonraking Festival.
I think we should go right back to the beginning, because there are some people who will know what we're talking about. There are others who are thinking, Moonraking? What on earth are those two people on about? So what is Moonraking?
Well, it is a lantern celebration. Many years ago, too many perhaps to state, but over 30, I came to live in Slaithwaite with my husband, and we ran a small arts company. We had learned how to make beautiful willow and tissue paper lanterns from a company that we worked with over in Cumbria. And we heard about the Moonrakers in Slaithwaite when we moved in. It was still a story that was linked to the village. The story is of smugglers on the canal. Obviously, the canal back in the sort of 17th century was a bit like the M62. So they were smuggling, illicit liquor, so it's sold.
Goodness me. Can you imagine such a thing? Illicit liquor on the canal. Yeah, so they were doing a bit of smuggling, yes.
They were caught by the excise men, and to cover up their ill doings, they said they were raking the moon from the canal. So we became known as Moonrakers, and we thought, fantastic! What a wonderful image to link with lanterns. So we make a giant lantern moon, which we really do rake from the canal. And then we make the community makes lots of smaller sculptural lanterns that are carried alongside the moon in procession round the village.
I think it's the most lovely idea, and I think as we come out of winter into spring, that idea of illuminating a dark winter's night is such a lovely idea, Gill.
Well, you've got it there. I think, as you say, January and February, they're quite dark months. And it feels a bit of a long way off to spring. So the idea is that we're illuminating and giving people something hopeful and joyful to do in the dark part of the year.
I was in your neck of the woods in the autumn, and I was lucky enough to be introducing a concert which involves some fabulous brass and the Colne Valley Male Voice Choir. And I took the middle road, and I noticed now that you are going the full Slough. You definitely don't go Slaithwaite, but I went for Slaithwaite as an incomer but a proper Yorkshireman. So I like the fact that you're going with the full-on Slough today. Yeah. So we'll have a break for some music in a second, but let's talk about these lanterns in a moment and how you make them. But I'm interested that there'll be a whole generation of perhaps kids who won't have seen this before because they've been growing up during the COVID times, or people who've moved to the area who will be having a little bit of magic today, because it is one of those magical events, isn't it?
Yes, it really is.
What's the special thing that you look forward to most, John?
Well, I have to say, as the event coordinator, I do quite like looking forward to the end when it's all gone swimmingly.
That's an honest answer.
However, I think when we, sort of rake the moon down the water and it's lifted from the water, that is the little bit of magic, really, that is to look forward to.
Very nice. Well, we'll hear about some of the workshops that have been going on through half term, getting everybody ready for this. And I do like the fact that, given it was a story of contraband and we're just moonraking, we're just raking the moon out of the canal here. I do love the fact that you called the precursor last year moonshine. I think that works very well indeed. Yeah. Reminding me of that wonderful phrase, Jill, that my dad and mum both used to use. I'm not as green as I'm cabbage looking, Andrew. I can't imagine what the excise chaps thought when those smugglers said, we're just raking the moon out.
I think it's eternal optimism, and that's why we do the festival as well. They were optimistic that they'd get away with it.
Excellent.
And we carried that through.
Very good, Jill. Stay there. We'll talk about lantern making and moon raking in Slaithwaite in a moment on BBC. She's allowed to say Slough, given she lives there. It's BBC yesterday. So Saturday sorted with BBC Radio Leeds. Here's a woman who knows what her day is going to hold, a bit of moon raking. It's the organiser of the Moonraking Festival back in Slaithwaite. The first time it's happened in full since 2017. It's the wonderful Gill Bond, who's really, she was saying, been 30 years of just fascination with the whole story and the event and bringing people together. So how do you just remind us how many lanterns you're expecting and how they get made in the course of building up to the festival, Jill?
Well, we run a week-long programme of lantern making. That's part of the festival. And people book on to come and create their masterpieces. But you can do one in one session, but frankly, it often takes two or more because people get quite carried away with it. So we start with willow sticks that they're used in basket making, so that gives you a bit of an idea of the kind of framework. And they are bent into creating, well, our theme is water for this festival. So people have made lanterns in the shapes of all sorts of fish creatures. We've got quite a lot of squid and jellyfish type things.
Wonderful.
And then we've got some watering cans, a tap, I think. So people have been really creative and inventive about how they are interpreting the theme by creating these wonderful willow and tissue paper sculptures.
And one of the wonderful things, at a time when an awful lot of people are feeling the squeeze, is that the community rallied together in lots of ways to get the funding to make sure that it is back with such a bang tonight.
Yes, we did. We ran a crowdfunding campaign. We have been applying for different grants. So we've been successful with an Arts Council award. And also with Cleese, they have supported us as well.
Well, I'm so pleased it's happening. When do you get the rake out and look for perhaps a contraband, I was going to say a bottle of rum or perhaps a whole case of rum in the canal? When does it all get underway, Jill?
Well, we start with a bit of preamble. So from about late afternoon, 5:30, we start to have a little programme of music and theatre, street theatre, to get everybody warmed up and in the mood. Our wonderful businesses in Slaithwaite are really pulling out the stops. We've got different music groups, special menus, all of that sort of thing. So Slaithwaite will be open and vibrant. And then at 6:30, that's the witching hour. That's when the moon is started to be raked along the canal to be brought out and then carried around the village.
Wonderful. And when does Jill Bond have a little glass of contraband or not tipple to celebrate it all going wonderfully?
Well, that's everything in terms of the moon raking as such is done and dusted. We're back round from the procession. We've given 3 cheers to the moon again at about 8 o'clock. But as I say, it doesn't necessarily all stop there. I think it's beholden of me, Andrew, to go round to each one of those wonderful businesses and just sample their illicit liquor.
Well, what a noble person you are, Gill. It's been an absolute treat. Happy moonraking.
Thank you, Andrew.
Nice to speak to you, Gill. All the best. Bye-bye. Gill Bond, moonraking in Slaithwaite. Here's Elton John.